Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Hilaritas podcast. I am your host, Mike Gathers. Hilaritas Press has just released Lion of Light, Robert Anton Wilson on Aleister Crowley. Stop what you're doing right now, pause the podcast, and buy this book. And, as this episode releases on Maybe Day, the 23rd of July, 2023, the 50th anniversary of Bob's Sirius experience, Bobby Campbell has assembled another fantabulous Maybe Day multimedia extravaganza. Head on over to maybeday.net and check that out. And when you're done with all that, join me here as we explore the vast world of iconic writer, psychedelic psychologist, rebel philosopher, and self-proclaimed agnostic mystic, Robert Anton Wilson. Visit us at hilaritaspress.com/podcast for show notes, links, and past episodes. In this very serious episode, releasing on the 50th anniversary of Bob's profound experience of Maybe, I chat with the good Reverend Ivan Stang, co-founder of the Church of the Subgenius.
I laughed for 3 whole days. People were digging tunnels. People were hiding in caves. People were trying to escape. I was sitting there laughing like a lunatic because I had a rhesus in my pineal gland. But then I had only achieved bliss. I had not achieved enlightenment. Then I let Bob into my bank account. 24 hours, I was flat on my ass broke. What? I had slack. I had... Great Bob.
Ivan Stang, welcome to the Hilaritas podcast.
Why, thank you, Mike. I'm really happy to be on involved in anything related to my old helper and buddy Pope Bob.
Praise Bob.
Well, all the Bobs.
Praise all the Bobs.
Pope Bob Wilson doesn't have quotes on his Bob name. See, whereas J.R. Bob Dobbs, our guru, our missing in action guru, is he's the quotes. I think the quotes on the Bob serve to contain his sometimes wrathful energy and magic, and it also is a dead giveaway of Bobbies and fair weather subgeniuses who can't even bother to spell Bob's name right. That's the dead giveaway. If you see somebody on Facebook going, "Oh yeah, praise Bob," and they spell Bob in all caps as if that saves the problem of the quote marks. But man, those quote marks on Bob's name, that's what differentiates him from all the other Bobs. It's the most common name in the English language. So which causes beginning young schizophrenic subgeniuses to sometimes think, it's true, it's magic. Bob is everywhere. Well yeah.
Bob is everywhere.
It's a world of Bobs, man. There's even conventions of people named Bob Smith, I think.
So the quotes distinguish the true believers from the false prophets. Is that?
It's one of the main things, at least on text. You can't tell in speech. You don't really hear the quotes.
Right. You have to air quote it.
Right. Oh, by the way, we're working on an AI copy of Bob's brain, which is not difficult because he's not like the smartest subgenius. That's not his claim to fame. He's lucky, not smart. When, as we used to say, when was the last time brains got you laid? Well, lots of people will go, well, that's about the only way. But it's as Bob said, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. Somebody else
There
may
you
have also said that. I never can tell.
would have to look it up. And as I understand it, no one has ever seen Bob light his pipe. Is he the keeper of the eternal flame?
But yeah, it never seems to go out. That's you're right, and no one can remove it from his mouth but him.
Ah,
Yeah, even his wife can't budge it. If you look at the picture of him real close, it's the pipe is fit into against his teeth. He doesn't have his mouth open at all to hold, to be biting the pipe. It's almost like the pipe goes through one of the teeth and roots in his brain or his jaw or something.
or it's
Some
just
people think
suspended.
that some people think that the pipe is the controlling entity.
Oh,
That Bob is just a hollow shell, and that the pipe is some sort of an alien intelligence, or
he's just the transmission of the power of the pipe.
yeah. But how are we going to check that? We don't know.
Right.
He's full of mystery.
That was my
Bob,
thought.
Bob plays in mysterious ways.
To just surrender to the mystery, right?
Hands up. don't shoot. I'm a man. I'm a subgenius. Anyway.
I have to admit, I'm feeling rather subgenius today because I accidentally cracked the screen on my laptop.
Oh
And
no. Ooh.
yeah, I
Ouch.
I had the little mouse dongle removed and was sitting on the keyboard when I closed the laptop, and that cracked the screen. So maybe I am, in fact, a subgenius, a reluctant
Well,
subgenius.
it's a lot more people can qualify for subgenius than genius. Those Mensa people. Oh God, they're unbearable.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So that's the
Anybody who thinks they know what intelligence is, they're not demonstrating a huge amount of intelligence. I don't think we are qualified to really decide who's the smartest person in the room. The one saying they are is definitely not the one.
right. Well, so if Mensa is the top 2% that qualifies as genius, does that make the 98%, the rest of us, automatically
No,
eligible?
you're only a subgenius if you send in your
Oh, right.
44.99.
Okay.
$5 off special right now.
Oh,
People, yeah. We said $35 for about 20 years, and inflation.
inflation is
Yeah.
catching up with
It's
everybody.
it's basically it's gonna be $50 soon. But you get a lot you get a pretty good little ordainment package. It's got just about everything you would need. There's a little minister's card. I
Okay.
performed. I've lost count of how many marriages I've performed, honestly. And you get all your decoder pins, your stickers,
Oh,
bumper
bumper
stickers.
stickers.
Yeah, this huge uh, proclamation. This is the official divine excuse, all inclusive excuse. Lawyers love this thing, and here's a doctorate of the forbidden sciences, so that you're.
Well, I didn't realize it comes with a doctorate. That's
Oh heck
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. We're all doctors here, and our little minister's card is very very much inspired by the Discordian's Pope card.
Right.
Wilson used to make everybody a pope as soon as he met him. Well, we charge him,
No,
but we
I
also tell them
appreciate it.
we also encourage people to join the Universal Life Church just in case, because they're better known than Church of the Subgenius.
Ah,
Yeah, it's a pretty nice little package, a lifetime membership. Like you really can perform real marriages. That's not something that the state decides who is a minister. Thank goodness. At least so far they don't. Sometimes
those
you have to pay a fee to a city.
Right.
But marriages are usually done by city rules rather than county or state or federal or God.
Well, and
Yeah,
when
but
you joined the church,
the real money is in divorce, of course. You know, you don't make any. I charge maybe $200 for to hitch a couple, and but the real money is in when they break up. That's the lawyers. That I wish we could give law degrees out. Hey, wait, with AI, we probably could.
hey, that maybe you're onto something there. A
Well,
subgenius AI.
AIs can pass a bar exam.
Right. If you use AI, does that make you a genius then? Would that somehow
No,
disqualify?
no, it's all the more. It's more slackful that way, right?
Oh,
You don't have to really think much. You just ask the AI to do it for you. I wrote and illustrated a comic book using all AI just recently. We just put it on sale in our catalog. It sold pretty well. It's full color, slick paper, 16 pages, and there's no humans in it. So it doesn't have that creepy problem of the hands all being
yeah, AI.
missing and stuff. It's about how after the humans destroyed most life on Earth, rotifers and tardigrades are left, and they evolve intelligence and start competing, and then they destroy the world, warring with each other all over again. Oh, spoiler alert!
Ah,
But
yeah. Well,
it was. I basically started out just asking the AI to write a science paper about that fact, and then I went, "Hey, write a comic book script." And I had it write about 10 of them, and they were terrible, all of them. But they all had one cool idea that I wouldn't have thought of myself. So I kind of spliced them all together and then just started requesting images of rotifers and tardigrades. And most people don't know what those things look like anyway. So, you know, they're beautiful looking monsters in the comic book.
nice.
So I'm working on a new book now, the reincarnation subhistory of the world with an atlas that's going to tell the true story of all history. The Noah's Ark part is the best because it's got dinosaurs.
Ah, fantastic. The
And,
true story of history.
yeah, and we know a lot about Noah's Ark because it sank here in Glen Rose, Texas. Well, there were two arks. See, there was the one, and then there was another one full of all the animals and things nobody wanted. That's the subgeniuses, the yetis, the chupacabras. A lot of dinosaurs managed they it sank here, but they more like shipwreck. I could show
Ah,
people it just looks like an old torn down house now, but it is the remnants of Noah's Ark. Um,
eh,
yeah, we have a lot of evidence. We have a fossil alien here from the
oh,
Cretaceous that, it was the aliens that killed the dinosaurs more than anything. They had an accident during a picnic. Yeah, we got fossil alien. We've got a fossil robot skeleton, if you can imagine that. It's a robot that turned to stone, probably belonged to the alien.
ah,
And fossil subgeniuses, cave subgeniuses. We call them, to the rubes who pay $5 to see them, we call them Adam and Eve, but they're really Adam and Steve.
okay. Ooh,
You know how people are.
yeah,
Some people.
that would be scandalous. Yeah, don't let that get out.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you though, when of the all the weddings, subgenius marriages I've done, quite a few of them were trans people before they even had a word for that.
Oh,
Yeah, there's been the church apparently they a lot of folks that are what they now call non-binary. They seem to intuitively understand nobody's going to give them a hard time in the church of the subgenius because it's a church for weirdos.
it's a church for everyone. Well, especially
No,
weirdos.
no, no. Well, actually, the funny thing is when Philo, it's not just me, it was Philo Drummond and me. Philo's busy today, though. And he strangely enough, he's nearby. He's helping his
Oh,
parents. Yeah. Normally he lives on his own farm in Kentucky now, but he's still real involved. And of course, we're getting older, so there's a new guy that's probably going to be the next sacred scribe. That's Reverend Onan Canobite. Uh,
okay.
he'll be the next Stang, but with a very completely different flavor, I'm sure.
Well, as I understand it, there was a few hundred before you, but they didn't last long. Is that
No,
right?
I'm sacred scribe number 273,
Okay.
and yeah, they Bob burned him out pretty quick.
Okay.
He he stayed away from me. The only time I ever saw Bob in person was the night he was shot. He was only alive for about a minute or two. I couldn't believe it. We weren't expecting Bob because we had this big show in San Francisco, biggest show we ever did before or since. It was like a huge theater. We were way out of our league, but all these people showed up, including a lot of celebrities. And on the last night, Bob suddenly walked out on stage, and just as soon as he started waving to the audience, one of the subgeniuses ran up and shot him with a handgun, killed him.
Oh,
Because he had said, if you meet me on the highway, kill me.
okay. So
I
the
think
prophecy is fulfilled,
he swiped that from Buddha.
right? But
Yeah.
the prophecy is now fulfilled then.
Oh, it got fulfilled over and over again. It turned into a fad. He showed up, because Bob's like a cartoon character. You get exploded, and he's just kind of looks singed and has band-aids on him. So he bounced back somehow or another and got shot in L.A. about a year later, and then he quit showing up at those things. Funny how that happens.
But he keeps resurrecting. He's like Kenny in South Park. Is that right?
Yeah, oh yeah, very much so. But like I say, he avoids Subgenius events.
It sounds like as he should. It's hazardous to his health.
That was hazardous to my health. That's why my back is going out. We still do the annual. Every year we gather on July 5th somewhere and wait for the saucers to come, because Bob said the world would end on July 5th, 1998.
Right?
Well, obviously we don't really know what year this is, because
Right. Or maybe we just had a different 0 point.
the conspiracy has been working for centuries to discredit Bob by twiddling calendars and things. That's our guess. So this year might be 1998, and the event this year is in a campground outside of Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be real big. They've gotten smaller each year, because the world keeps refusing to end. Everybody's ready for it. Boy, come on, saucers, come take me away.
Right.
Take me away, escape vessels. Because Bob swung a deal where if you spend $44.99 now on Church of the Subgenius, not only will you live forever, not die during the apocalypse, but you get to do the apocalypse your way. You can
Oh,
go back and punish teachers that slapped your wrist unfairly. I'm going to have to bring several of them back to life to get revenge on them.
well, that
And
is a deal. I have a few on my list.
well, that's the thing. A lot of subgeniuses have enemies lists of people they want to remember to kill first on X day when they get superpowers and all Bob's prophecies come true. I'm more of a collector. I want to preserve stuff. I'm going to have a really large planet-sized escape vessel, because you could anything you wish for comes true. And
Hey,
I've got dubs on the Grand Canyon, the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, the British Museum, a big dinosaur warehouse in Arizona. I've got a lot of stuff I'm going to. Actually, I could just say, make me a copy of Planet Earth, but without people on it,
yeah.
except for those needed to maintain some beautiful old cities I want to keep, like Venice. um, you know,
What's it?
Rock City in Tennessee and places like that. I thought I turned this.
Maybe that's Bob.
Yeah, that would just figure. You know, the one time I put it on airplane mode. Oh, actually, that was reminding me to
Hop on the
do it.
pot.
I'm playing this phone game called Trailer Park Boys Greasy Money. I'm a big Trailer Park Boys fan, and stupid. It's one of those idle harvest games. The kids that know what I'm talking about. I injured my neck playing action video games, you know, where you have to like fight
Right.
monsters like this. It hurt my neck to do that. So now I'm playing old man games.
Phone games.
Yeah, phone games. Monster Hunter almost killed me. The monsters in the Monster Hunter game just about
Okay.
killed me. But
Be careful.
you know, this podcast is largely centered around things relating to Robert Anton Wilson's body of work, right?
Correct.
Well, we owe that guy, him and Bob Shea, big time, and we've never made any bones about that. I've been, you know, real upfront about that. I in the late '70s, I was in an Albertsons drugstore, and there was this paperback book with a yellow submarine on it, and it caught my eye. It seemed to be completely insane. It was the first volume of Illuminatus. And I started reading that. It starts at a rock festival, and the names of the bands were so funny and so great. And you could tell the people who wrote this, they read comic books. They like the Three Stooges. They like the same stupid stuff we do. I later came to realize why Wilson and Shea knew everything. They'd been working at Playboy doing the advice column, so before Google, so they had to look all kinds of stuff up. And plus, they got kook mail. You know, a magazine like Playboy attracts a lot of kook mail and so forth. I know what that's like, and everything about that. They described Discordianism in there, and I thought it was all made up by them. I mean, I didn't understand that it had been around since the late 50s. And so in a way, that idea of this fictional nutty religion, it was very helpful. My buddy and I had already been thinking about making little insane pamphlets that confused every conspiracy theory we knew about then. And just the idea was to leave them around in laundromats or drop lift them. We would take them into little bookstores and comic book shops and when the owner didn't know, leave a stack of them there. And then people would come to the counter to pay $1 for this little pamphlet. And then the owner go, "What? Where'd that come from?" So they're where are those? This is the Subgenius pamphlet #1. It's been reprinted. There's got to be at least 200,000 copies out there. The book of the Subgenius is still in print. Strangely enough, it's been in print for 25 years. No, I guess it'd be 20 years now. No, 30. Yeah, it's from 1980. 81 or so when the book came out.
Over 30 years, yeah.
Yeah. And collectively, all of our books have sold over 100,000 copies, but it's just a few a month, you know. This is what I was getting to, the Discordian thing.
Yeah.
Damn it, I don't have it. We just we just printed a book. We published a book by Carrie Thornley.
Okay.
Just about 4 months ago, called Jailbird. And it's mainly about his perceived connection to the Kennedy assassination. He felt that this is the guy who co-wrote the Principia Discordia, right?
Correct.
Greg
Yes.
Hill and some other folks. And but when he was living in New Orleans, he encountered a couple of people who he then decided later were trying to groom him in case Oswald didn't work out. He had actually known Lee Harvey Oswald in the Marines and had written a book based on Oswald
Right. The
before the
other runners.
assassination. Anyway, he wrote about his experiences with these guys at great length, and it was never really collected all together. A lot of it was there, but our friend Onan Canabite, who also knew Thornley and corresponded with him like we did, he put it all together. I mean, Thornley's been dead for 20 years now, but we got his book out, and it's the way he wanted it to be. It has the title. It's really thick. I've been surprised that more Discordians haven't heard about it or bought it. I tried to advertise it on their Facebook pages and stuff, but yeah, it's Kerry Thornley's last and biggest book, and it's got a lot of really funny stuff in the appendix. At the end of it, it goes all Discordian and Subgenius-y, and he talks about Bob and Eros and all that in a very sarcastic way. He was really funny. He also was a paranoid schizophrenic in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
The sad thing is, his book opens with him talking about how worried he is about becoming a paranoid schizophrenic. He doesn't sound at all crazy. His book sounds, it's really entertaining. It's very well written. He does not sound crazy at all. And but he did eventually, he got to where he could barely, talk to people.
Yeah, it almost sounds like he became a victim of his own joke.
Sort of. Well, except that he might have been actually being groomed for to fall in. He hated Kennedy for odd reasons, and that we later makes more sense now that we know more about that stuff. But he wasn't crazy when it all started. That Kennedy thing, man, you get too far into that can of worms, and that's talk about a rabbit hole. That's a nasty one. You learn too much. You never learn the final answer, but you learn a whole lot of other stuff that it's probably good to know, but really horrible.
And there seems to be no bottom to the rabbit hole. It just keeps going.
Right. And of course, some of that stuff's still going on,
Yeah.
We'll find out later, as always. Who knows what the Homeland Security's really got going on? I didn't say that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
See, Church of Subgenius is just a joke. Because, I mean, if we thought this stuff was for real, why they'd lock us up?
Right.
We'd end up like Kerry Thornley, poor bastard.
Everything we're speaking about is just allegedly.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's just satire. It's just part of the satire. All those mentally ill people, all those diseases, that's just part of the joke. We're just making a point. We're mirroring society. We're just a mirror of society.
It's all art. This is all done in the name of art.
Yeah, that was Lenny Bruce's excuse, and look what happened to him. Oh, my.
Yeah, well, maybe that's not the right path to go down.
Well, I'm not. It's funny. I spent my career sort of doing, I guess you would have to call it stand-up comedy. I really was preaching, but we never, ever were in a comedy club. I've never even been inside a comedy club. Once I went to see Paul Krasner do a charity show in Cleveland, and that was the only time he's the only stand-up comedian I've ever seen. Him and Timothy Leary, who got to be really good at stand. Yeah. He was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, he was another guy who was like kind of went nuts for a while, but after enough real world problems like being held hostage in Algeria and going to prison and stuff like that, his stand-up career was really great. I used to be involved. My wife is still director of one of the bigger neo-pagan festivals called Starwood Festival.
Right.
It's world music and workshops, new agey stuff, but also science stuff, all kinds of things. It's really fun. I thought they were going to ambush me because I had made fun of all that stuff, but they wanted me to come and make fun of the humorless pagans. The funny pagans wanted to piss off the humorless fundamentalist pagans, and I was I was their mascot for that. And anyway, Starwood Festival had Robert Anton Wilson come and speak many times. In fact, I got to have go to kind of a party with Shea and Wilson.
Nice.
We had Shea and Wilson both at Winter Star Festival, and they talked about movies the whole time. They were such movie buffs. It was really fun to watch these two heroes of mine having fun like that. They were pretty old. Wilson was already in a wheelchair. His polio had come back, and he was in a wheelchair. But Shea, who I guess had been divorced, met his true love at our event, and they got married, and then they died. But that Starwood Festival, I got to regularly. They had Tim Leary, and he was very friendly to us. He's real supportive of Subgenius. Like Paul Krasner, who contributed, Pope Bob contributed a story to our book, Three Fisted Tales of Bob, which was an anthology of genre takeoffs.
Is that the Horrors of House Hill or House
That's
Hill?
right. Yeah. So his was a Lovecraft. He kind of mashed up Lovecraft and Subgenius, which already had, we swiped from all the great religions. Subgenius is like a Frankenstein monster pieced together from the parts of dead religions. Scientology, the Masons, everything, the great mystery schools, and Lovecraft, of course. So,
and if I was following you earlier, well, one, I found it wonderful that you could find a copy of Illuminatus in an Albertsons grocery store.
Right.
And, and then you read that, and that was part of the inspiration behind the church, or you were already thinking about it?
Well, we were already thinking along those lines, but it was like, these guys are already doing what we were going to do, and so in 1979, Philo and I pieced together that first Subgenius pamphlet, and it was right after I had printed it up and started sending it around to publishers that I realized that the Principia Discordia was real. And I saw somebody handed me it was only a Xeroxes then.
Yeah,
that's what you didn't say photocopy then. You said Xerox. Anyway, and I was horrified. It was like, oh no, people are going to think we just straight out copied them, which is not entirely true. Our stuff is mostly quite original, but it's full of tips of the hat. It's got tips of the hat to Devo. They noticed, and of course, when that first Devo album came out, it's Chichi Rodriguez's face, but it looks kind of like Bob. And again, we're like, oh God, everybody's going to think we stole that from Devo or something. David Byrne, when he did his movie True Stories, well, he was a dues-paying Subgenius, and he wanted to do a Subgenius scene in it. And but when when he got the money, suddenly it wasn't really his movie; it was the Pressman Corporation's movie. And they decided we didn't have enough of a track record, so they hired a fake preacher and somebody else to do the media backdrop and everything. But the song "Puzzling Evidence" was named after our friend Puzzling Evidence, who had the first Subgenius radio show starting in 1982 in Berkeley, KPFA in Berkeley. It's still on.
Yeah.
Puzzling
Wow.
Evidence is still a show at KPFA Berkeley after, since 1982. It's like 40 years now. My show, The Hour of Slack, started in Dallas in 1985. And I did that until station management changed. They kicked me out. But I'd already syndicated the show to a bunch of other stations. So I produced it from home and continued sending cassettes out. And then when I moved to Cleveland, Cleveland was, strangely enough, the most Subgenius friendly city in the United States. There was a reason for it. There was an activist who'd gone around plastering bob heads everywhere in town. There's still, a lot of them are still there.
Oh, that's
People
great.
were seeing that face since the 80s. And the radio station there at WCSB, Cleveland State, played my show, The Hour of Slack. And then when I moved there, I started doing the show back in the studio there, and with a lot of help from some talented people. And we did that until I moved back to Texas. And I still was doing it from home here, but I'm getting deaf, got tired of the routine. So now I'm playing with AI instead.
Well, that was a long run for a radio station, so I
I did that weekly show.
Weekly, wow.
Yeah, it was a weekly show, longer than Johnny Carson did his show, longer than David Letterman did his show. Although they did more shows, they did them 5 days a week. But we actually lasted, and we outlasted big corporations like Enron and cult leaders like Elron.
L
Ron Hubbard died a week after I mailed him a pamphlet.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's a little auspicious, right? And if I understand, Bill Hicks and PKD were involved in something like this.
Yeah. I feel real bad about that. A friend of mine happened to be visiting, a fan. He was a big fan of Phil Dick. And somebody had given me, I think Paul Mavrides had given me Dick's home address, and I sent him a pamphlet. And my friend saw the pamphlet sitting there, and when he left Dick's house, as I think Dick's ex-wife was arriving about the time my friend left, and Phil Dick died that day. And yeah, Bill Hicks. I'd never heard of Bill Hicks really. Like I say, I didn't think of myself as a stand-up comic, and I didn't really listen to many of those guys, not even George Carlin, because I had a tendency to want to copy him. And when I finally heard Bill Hicks, it was like, oh God, I'm embarrassed. This guy's such a better preacher than me. Somebody gave me his agent's address, and I mailed it to him, and the agent said, sorry. That also happened with, it wasn't because I mailed him a pamphlet. The band Sublime, there was this, they were really up and coming band, Sublime, and their lead singer was a big Bob fan, and he put Bob on their actual CD, their first CD, and we discovered that and said, hey, you guys owe us. You used our art, or that's a trademark. So they said, well, you kind of called a bad time. Bradley just died of an overdose. I'm the bass player. What would you have charged us? I said, oh, about $2,000. He said, okay. They sent us $2,000. Sorry about Bradley. That's our only real rock star that didn't wear a funny mask or have a funny suit. All our other friends are nuts, like Mojo Nixon and Devo and spaz bands,
Bob works in mysterious ways.
He has worked real hard to keep us from ever getting really famous and popular, which of course would ruin the entire thing.
Right.
That has always been, people have, that's when somebody gets mad at us, they accuse us of selling out. Like, oh, you guys got a book out now. You got a big head. Want to talk to anybody? like you could make a living from a book. If you're Stephen King or Danielle Steele, sure. We get maybe like $600,000 a year from Book of the Subgenius. I have to split that 3 ways. So that part of it's a joke. But I haven't had to work for anybody else because of those ordainments. So selling those little ordainment kits. It's kind of like the ant farm or sea monkeys, both of which were basically an old guy working out of his house, his family helping. And everybody had to have an ant farm or sea monkey at one point or another when they were kids. Sure. And every weirdo had to finally send off for that Subgenius pamphlet sooner or later. And that's been paying my half of the rent. It would be terrible if I wasn't married to someone with a pension, but I got a house that's paid for, and so we're okay now.
Praise Bob.
Yeah. Bob's been all the Bobs. Well, actually, some Bobs have been terrible. I got to where I didn't trust people named Bob. There were some bad ones, but Bob Wilson was one of the greats. He was so kindly to us and so encouraging, because like when I first wrote him a letter, my excuse was I wanted to research some UFO thing that he had written about. And I sent him our pamphlet and he said, hey, if you get any deeper into UFOs, keep your sense of humor. But this pamphlet's great. And next thing I knew, he was helping promote us. And, he did it. I've got on my YouTube channel, there's a really funny rant he did at Phenomicon in Atlanta. That was a great convention idea, but it only lasted 2 years. They had everybody in conspiracydom at that one. I met a lot of my enemies there. And I watched the skeptic. There was a skeptic guy there, Schaefer. He just started tearing into Bob Wilson because Bob called himself, had somewhere in one of his books, he was, Dr. Wilson. And it's like, well, I was given a doctorate by it. And, I can legitimately say that. But that guy really laid into him. I was stuck in the middle. I was like, I was totally pro Raw, but I'm also a skeptic. And so I'm like little big man, I'm in 2 worlds. I know a lot of people who wrote some of the main New Age books and Bibles because of Starwood. Oberon Zell, Church of the Worlds, right? And Morning Glory Zell, bless her heart.
Green Egg magazine.
President Vermin.
Supreme. I'm not familiar with Vermin Supreme. That rings a bell.
That's his name, right?
I think you're right. I just
he runs for president every year. He's quite a character. He's like a living Emperor Norton sort of guy.
Excellent.
Really, really funny dude, and he's a good person to have if you're having a street demonstration. His expertise is defusing the tenseness. He can make the cops and the protesters laugh. Vermin Supreme. Yeah. He's I'm surprised that you haven't heard of him in Raw land.
No, the name rings a bell, but my memory is not what it used to be.
Doctor Memory Doctor. That's it. Fire Sign Theater. That's another group that was hugely influential on Church of the Subgenius. There've been like 4 main Subgenius radio shows that went on for years and years. Puzzling Evidence Show, Hour of Slack, my show. Reverend Susie the Floozy in Atlanta did a wonderful show called Bob's Slack Time Funhouse for decades. And there's a bunch of spinoffs now too. But what we all had in common was we wanted to grow up and be the Firesign Theater, and we did. And the fire the what's left of them are our friends now. I got patted on the back by all my heroes. I couldn't believe it. And when I was really young, like in the early '80s, I was a big fan of underground comic, like Zap was the most famous one. Robert Williams was one of my favorite artists, and Robert Crumb, S. Clay Wilson, and Paul Mavrides and Hal Robbins and Jay Kinney in San Francisco were all part of that group. And they were early Subgenius fans, and they, kind of thrust our stuff into the faces of the other underground cartoonists. So Bob's been featured sarcastically in Zippy the Pinhead a few times, and Crumb published, when he did his first issue of Weirdo magazine, he reprinted our Subgenius pamphlet, and that's where some of our best members first encountered it. Heavy Metal magazine was real nice to us back in the day. People magazine did a glowing review of Book of the Subgenius, and the Secret Service came to see me because the illustration they used had Bob, Kennedy, Elvis, and Buddha, and an army of Subgeniuses with guns facing a Hydra, a literal cross-section of a scientific Hydra, a microscopic Hydra cross-section. Each arm was labeled things like Reagan or any president. Well, that caused the Secret Service to come to my door. And they didn't even have my name right. That was the most hilarious thing. They go, okay, but this is no big secret. My Ivan Stang is a pen name. My real name is Douglas St. Clair Smith. Doug Smith. And the Secret Service shows up at my door in like 1982 and says, "Are you Douglas St. Clair?" And at that point, I could have said, no. So they didn't even have, what crappy, these are people protecting our president?
Right.
Jeez.
Wow.
Basically, they said, well, there's no law against this, but you shouldn't print this anymore. It's like, okay, I won't. Simon and Schuster was printing it. People magazine printed it.
It's already going.
Yeah. And that particular illustration was so impressive that Devo, with permission, swiped it and redrew it in a Devo sense, made a poster of it. But they gave us a plug. They put our P.O. box that, so thanks to Subgenius Foundation, we got a whole bunch of our best members there. So it all grew really by word of mouth, and we didn't expect it to be a social scene. We thought we didn't even think we were going to sell it. The first time somebody sent us $10, we freaked out. Like, what are we going to do? Now we have to do a zine. We did do it. We did do a zine. I'm about to reprint those damn zines.
Nice. You've been
now
quite
that
prolific.
You can do, back in the day, the sudden appearance of instant printing was it like allowed people, poor folks like me, to do self-publishing in a limited way. And then we were about to go completely under when the internet came along. The internet saved us. And now AI has come along and it's going to kill us all. But I'm sure having fun with it first. I love playing with that stuff. You can ask that. I've done this. I said, write a rant in the style, a Subgenius rant in the style of Reverend Ivan Stang against AI, and then write another one that is about how the AI Bob will save the world. And it did a pretty good job. My friends wouldn't be fooled, but lots of other people would. It had certain little signature turns of speech that I use, and there's plenty of my rants on the internet for a Chappie or whatever AI to read instantly. They can't get Bob's pipe right though. Nobody's been able to get an AI to do a Bob face with the pipe looking right. It's very strange.
The mystery of Bob and his pipe. Maybe there's something that just can't be duplicated.
He reproduces well. I'll say that for old Bob. That halftone image has reproduced quite a bit.
I'm sitting here looking at him over your shoulder, and it feels just so familiar.
Right, right. Yeah, it's like everybody's the dad everybody wishes they'd had. And
Yeah,
that grin on his face looks kind of insane. It's
yeah,
just, it's not entirely healthy. It's something kind of crazy about that,
yeah.
the way he looks. I mean, believe me, we've tried to figure out, we've tried to, we've done everything with that damn head. You can see the masks in the background. A guy named
Right.
Sick Rick Masks made those. They're kind of limited edition, but he can make them. Oh, and the what is the Sacramento, like the Doodah Parade or something like that? There's an annual Nutty Parade in Sacramento, and last year there was an army of Bobs. Our friend John Hagenbrenner, who sculpted the first Bob mask and did a lot of our artwork, all our early art, that people, the stuff that everybody copied so much. John Hagenbrenner learned how to. He's got a digital scan of the bust he'd made of Bob, and then they started pressing plastic masks, and he'd use stiff plastic masks, just the front of the face, and he'd hand paint them. And they had like 30 people in Bob regalia parading down the street with big banners and things. They're going to do it again this year.
Nice. You know you've
Yeah.
made it.
Oh yeah,
It's-
yeah. Well, the Saint Stupid's Day Parade in San Francisco, that's another friendly church, the Church of the Last Laugh that worships Saint Stupid. Um, we're good buddies with Bishop Joey, who's started that church, and there's a lot of friendliness between the weirdo groups. Um, do you remember maybe Logic University?
yes, yes.
The online university that was inspired by Wilson's
I
stuff.
was a member back in the day. Yes.
Yeah, they had me teach a Subgenius history class, which was it was a way for me to get paid to clean up all my archives and office and figure out
Nice.
what the hell had happened. It was started around 2006. I I went through everything in my house and restacked it by year and pieced together a timeline of how all this stuff had come about. There was a lot of things I wouldn't have remembered. Every time I move, I get reminded of a lot of stuff.
I imagine. Oh.
Yeah, I'm not going to be moving again. It's done.
So do you have that curriculum then? That seems like
We're going to turn that into a series of books.
nice. Okay.
But I don't know if maybe Logic is still even running, but I did it.
Yeah.
I did that course like 4 or 5 times.
Oh wow. Okay.
Not every year, but like every other year. And yeah, some of the other professors were pretty big name eggheads, so that made me feel important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I took a few classes from Bob Wilson back when they started it. That was a great way to and we're starting to try and publish some of that material that he had from back then.
Right. Yeah, I'm really glad to see all that. There's a lot of that happening. I've noticed that y'all are still keeping his books alive. I'm starting to reprint our old books. Oh, that's what I was going to say. What instant print was freed us up back in the day, then the internet, and now it's published on demand, print on demand.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything to have, Amazon or somebody print your damn book. They take half the money, but it doesn't cost anything up front. Just
Right. You don't have
and,
250 bucks sitting in your 250 books sitting in your basement hoping they
right,
sell.
right. I that this is a much better way. Like our Carrie Thornley book didn't cost us anything. On the other hand, I'm disappointed in how few people bought it.
Hmm.
Our best seller self-published book. Now, these aren't the famous Subgenius books. These are novels by other people so far. There's a real funny one called Neighbor World that sold, I think, about 300 copies.
Yeah.
That's a lot for a self-published book. But if you have a lot of self-published books, it adds up. I sit here and mail that crap out. I've hidden my mail stuff behind this old
Ah,
poster, but I every morning I get up and I fill a few orders, and my wife takes them to the post office. The post office won't come to this house; it's too far. It's too deep in the woods.
wow.
Driveways a half a mile long, and there's a goat ranch in between.
Well, that must make for some entertainment.
Yeah, yeah. My brother is a goat rancher, and yeah, so I live on a goat ranch. I'd never be able to afford the property taxes here if it wasn't agricultural like that.
Right, right.
Um, but it's great. It's great. I could walk around stark naked uh, all
With the
around
goats.
the place with goats. But except that this is Texas, and you'd be crazy to do that because it's everything that grows has spines and sticks, and everything that crawls bites. And there's rattlesnakes and cactus everywhere, so it's really fun. And goats
And goats. Here they
invasive.
have a thing called goat yoga. I'm not quite sure what to do with that, but
I read about goat yoga one day. I thought that's got to be a joke. Oh, it's got to be a joke. I can't wait to show this to my brother. I was driving along the ranch road and I looked down at the goat field and it was full of women in tights doing yoga. My niece had beat me to it. Not only was it not a joke, but she had just started a successful goat yoga operation right here in our own backyard, right
fantastic.
where I am sitting now. Goat yoga. Yeah.
And so you just do yoga while the goats wander around? Is that
Yeah, basically
and
it's a gimmick. She hired a real yoga instructor, and she'd have up to like 50 people. One attraction was wine. You got wine before the yoga and
yeah,
after, and there were goats wandering around. And let me tell you, nothing feels better than laying on your belly in the grass and having a little baby goat walk up and down your back. It feels
oh,
great. On the other hand, there are these insects called trumbiculi, also known as chiggers.
oh,
Yeah, that's why I don't do the goat yoga.
not so
I,
hot.
it's
Yeah.
hard enough just to garden here. That's my next AI project, by the way, is a 4-page treatise about chiggers. It was art therapy. I
Eh?
could, yeah, I could pull my ankle up here and show it to the camera, and everybody would puke.
Well, what was your experience making this comic book with AI? You say you enjoyed it. Do you feel like it went pretty quick and you really like how was it working with it?
No, actually, it took a lot of work.
Oh wow.
Like I say, it wrote 10 scripts that were all terrible, and I kind of pieced together the good parts, and I had to, some of them were past tense, some were present tense, and so forth. I had to work on that a lot, and uh, the way I do AI art, it's almost all on my apps on my phone. I use a couple of apps that are real easy to do. You can, in downtime, wait and see the doctor in the bathroom, extra meditation, whatever. And I probably cranked out 50 iterations before I got, and then had to sort through them to find the one that was sort of close to what I was going for. You can't just say, hey, make me a picture of a rotifer wearing armor. It's going to give you all kinds of interesting things, but you might have to do it 50 times before you get one that's even vaguely close to what you want.
Okay.
I sent it to my artist, one of my artist friends, and he said, "Well, I like your comic book, but I'm not happy at my new job at Safeway." Like it, because he'd been implying that
Oh,
it was
putting
going to
him
put
out of
him out
work.
of work. He was a working artist,
Yeah.
and here I was. I, I'm an art. I'm a cartoonist who doesn't draw very well. So I've done my cartooning every other possible way: stop motion animation. Uh, I've made myself into a human cartoon, ranting on stage. A radio show that's basically a cartoon soundtrack, Uh,
Mm,
and now with AI, I can crank out really bad art and just
hey.
the most disgusting nudes. I'm thinking about doing a calendar called horror porn.
Horror porn by
Yeah,
AI.
yeah. I even Stang.
Mm.
I turn the A's in Ivan Stang into an AI when I do that because
Ah, gotcha.
I don't want people to think I'm cheating. I'm going to give credit to the real artist, which is the AI that has stolen from the techniques of a billion other artists, which is what every artist does. That's what I don't understand. That complaint. It's like, but they're copying the styles of real artists that I know. Like, yeah, all the artists that copied styles of artists that they like. That's how you learn to do it. You practice.
Yeah.
The
Well, isn't
AI
there
just and like I say, the editing, but that's always been my forte is editing.
mm,
Editing pictures, editing sound. I was a film editor when I had to make a real living, video editor and a script writer. But everything has been editing, and so the AI requires a lot of that, and it's fun.
right, right.
I can make decisions really fast and make a folder full of outs in seconds. I could get 50 pictures thrown out in the trash in very little time. And end up with five where they're real head scratchers. Like, which one? Well, nobody's going to know what the other ones look like. So what the hell? As long as you don't use human beings in it too much. Although they're getting better at that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some AI stuff that was frighteningly good. Uh, I mean, really, it was just really good art. Somebody had a good idea and they knew how to coax some of the ones like Chat or what is it, Dolly and
Yes.
Mid Journey. You have to be good at verbally telling it exactly what you
Right,
want.
right. I think
That's
that's
not
the
that
human talent is to coax the AI to get what you're
right.
looking for.
That's not what I do. I just make it do a million things and then grab the one that looks kind of okay.
Hey,
But it always makes a bunch of other stuff that you weren't expecting. And I found myself making a new project out of this things I did just for fun. Uh, I ended up going, wow, you could do something with these. You can make trading cards.
there you go.
I'm not going to put them in museums or anything, uh, unless it's a cartoon museum. But yeah, trading cards, calendars, things like that. We'll see.
Yeah. Well,
Those
I
I
have
do
to.
have to pay for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That adds to some expense, right? I was just thinking like you could create a pack of trading cards and put one in every Subgenius package you send out.
Yeah. Well, we kind of
But
do
that's,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Everybody gets the Dobbs head sticker, and here's a nice little postcard for X Day.
Nice.
Goodbye forever to planet Earth. That's a forever X Day card. It doesn't say it says look at our website for the address this year. A couple of years
During,
we had to do them in place. 2020, the COVID year, it was a bit giant Zoom meeting with 50 people. That was sort of fun.
yeah.
Couldn't understand a word anybody said. I did all my performing by pantomime, like a silent movie, because
That's maybe the
everybody's
way to
talking.
do. Right. Well, I'm sitting here staring at the Bob over your shoulder with his big eyes saying, join us. And I'm feeling like I need to to send in my $44.95.
Subgenius.com.
Subgenius.com. And is
Yeah.
there something I think you tried to distribute pamphlets at laundromats? Is there more to the history of the Subgenius that has to do with laundromats?
When in back in the 70s, I had to get my clothes washed at the laundromat and didn't own a washer or dryer. You'd go to a laundromat, and the Jehovah's Witnesses always left copies of Watchtower. What's the other one? They had two, and the John Birch Society would leave little pamphlets and things. And my buddy Philo and I collected that sort of stuff, and we would sit and compare notes and gaze at the artwork. The artwork in Jehovah's Witness pamphlet publications used to be really amazing. Now it's kind of like, I don't know, modern day clip art and photos and stuff. But they used to do these great paintings of, a giant hand about to crush the earth, God's punishment coming down, and the whore of Babylon. She was always really hot looking, and they'd have all this six symbolism, all that stuff, and great paintings. When I started, I had a short career for fun doing CG art with a simple program called Bryce and Poser. And I did a whole series of pictures that were based on Jehovah's Witness paintings of the end of the world. But of course, they were CG, and they were Bob, and they had more flying saucers. But the compositions were stolen from Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's fantastic.
We really just wanted to make a pamphlet that would, pardon the expression, it was Operation Mindfuck, I guess you could call it.
Right.
It was like we weren't thinking anybody would pay money for this. It still says $1 on those things, but we have to sell them for $2. It caught on in ways that we didn't expect. When we said 1998, I didn't think that I'd actually have to get up at 7 a.m. every July 5th for 30 years. But I still do.
That's part of the punishment, huh?
But it's the only time. That's the only. Everybody else has to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning every weekday. I can sleep in, except on preaching. Preachers have to work on Sunday.
Right. This is a reminder of what it would be like to be just an ordinary, everyday,
put on artist. Yeah, bullshit artist.
Right.
My father was a lawyer, so I come by the bullshitting and fair and square.
Well, that makes sense then. You made a trade in the religious arts.
Yeah, people who met my parents would almost invariably go, "Now I understand." See, you can see where it comes from, because my dad would immediately just start bullshitting me. He was really good at that.
Well, Reverend Stang, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Is there anything as we close up here you'd like to? We got subgenius.com.
Spend $1. Actually, that's it. Nobody does that anymore. Whoa, everything went. Did we get cut off?
No, I'm here with you.
Oh, okay. My screen just went completely blank, so I'll just assume everything's still working fine.
I can see.
Anyway, yes, send $1. If you're in prison and can't get on the internet, here's the post office. It's a short one. Post office box 807, Glen Rose, Texas 76043. And that's all at subgenius.com. God, it's showing me a newspaper for some reason. House GOP laying groundwork to impeach Biden's Homeland Security Secretary. Boy, they're going to try everything.
Things are getting weird.
They're not going to leave a single stone unturned. They want revenge, baby.
Right? They got nothing better to do.
Apparently. That's funny. How did that Safari screen? Oh, there it is. It just a new. I must have somehow hit new Command N or something. Now I can see you, and I can see the whole audience. Bob loves you, my friends. Bob, well, he also kind of hates you, and he also doesn't really give a hoot one way or the other. But if you send your money to Bob and get that cool little membership pack and don't be afraid to meet other subgeniuses. They're not all as bad as that one you saw at the party that one time. That probably wasn't even a dues paying one. They're not as bad as you think. Some of them are. So, praise Bob and praise all the Bob. Praise Pope Bob. We wouldn't be here without Pope Bob. Mary, I had the great fortune to be able to tell him that numerous times.
And if you have any final stories about hanging with Bob, I love the idea of you and Bob Shea and Bob Wilson chatting about movies.
Like I said, they talked about movies. Pope Bob was furious at the third Hannibal Lecter movie because they totally changed the ending. He loved those Hannibal Lecter movies, except the third one where Agent what's her name ended up in the book. She gets brainwashed by him and runs off and marries him. In the movie, he just like sawed off his hand or something to get away, and I forget. It was, yeah, I regret that I never got to meet Mrs. Wilson. I never got to meet his wife. Every time we met up, I was like opening for him if he was speaking in Dallas or at Starwood or Winter Star, one of those. We ended up at the same conventions sometimes, and he was just always really, really pleasant, really funny. I never saw him, lose it or get mad. But I'll tell you something, man. That guy was terrible with microphones. And I mean, he wasn't, as for a guy that did public speaking all the time. He'd sit way back, like his mic would be out over here, and he'd be way back here, and he'd talk in that Brooklyn accent, that sort of monotone. I can't do it. I can't do.
That was pretty good, actually.
I was shocked when I first heard him. It's like, this guy's just a Hobucker like me. He's got an accent that I associate with sort of like big city rednecks, you might say. Just what I probably, especially when I was younger, had more of a Texas accent. I probably struck Yankees that kind of that way. But I always ended up having to run up because nobody else had the nerve to do it. And I'm a sound technician along with other things. So I'd run up there and pull the mic in and, twist everything around, get it right up to his face. Of course, he'd still trying to pull back from it. There's a movie, the Maybe Logic movie.
Right.
That I had some of the only footage. People weren't like filming his lectures. And I did every chance I could get. They were just, high 8 video, one camera locked off, but at least there was that. So I was useful in that respect.
There's not a lot of video out there.
And speaking, I should mention, God, how could I forget? There's a feature-length documentary about Church of the Subgenius.
Okay.
It's excellent. I couldn't ask for a better thing. We didn't do it. We did ours. It's called Arise. Only Subgenius. It only works on people who are already subgeniuses. But this movie, the title of it is J.R. Bob Dobbs and the Church of the Subgenius. That's the title. It was finished in 2020, and there were no theaters. So it never got into theaters, but it was a lot of film. It was premiered at South by Southwest. I was there for that. It was directed by a woman, Sandy Boone of Austin, who was a widow of a subgenius friend of ours, and she wanted to get a directing credit. So she thought, I'll do a documentary about the subgenius. That'll be easy. Well, all of her money later She had a great film. She hired the best people, the editor, the writer, the camera work, everybody involved. It was a joy to work with that crew for me, because I'm from film background, and they were real pros. The editing just is stupefying, and you can see it free on Tubi with ads.
Okay.
Yeah, Tubi has it for free, but actually, there's a little link right at the top of subgenius.com, tells you everybody who's streaming it. I think
Okay.
Amazon, it was on Prime for a while, and I can still watch it on Prime because I bought a copy, but I don't think it rents on Prime. But there's several others that
I'll find it. We'll get the
it's
word
not
out.
not on Netflix, but it's available if you search for it. J.R.
Okay.
Bob Dobbs and the Church of Subgenius. You can watch it for like $3 or something. And it's great. It's really good. There's also excellent bootlegs going around. An hour after it debuted on Prime, my buddy Philo had already downloaded a really good copy of it off the internet. It took 1 hour for that thing to get into circulation for free. So you can get it for free. Yeah.
Praise
But
Bob.
help Sandy, man.
Okay.
Rent her buy a copy of J.R. Bob Dobbs and the Church of Subgenius. It's hilarious. It's really, really funny. It's really well done. And it gets pretty dramatic in a few places too. We've had some iffy situations that's where my home movies came in. I gave her all of our archives, and I'd been filming our shows and everything else for years. I even opened for Gwar, the rock band Gwar, 5 nights in a row before we realized that spoken word doesn't work in a heavy metal crowd.
Yeah, not what they're looking for.
I got pelted with beer cans and silver dollars and stuff. It really hurt. They hit you in the head.
Yeah. Hopefully you were able to pick up the dollars.
Yeah. That was worth it. But yeah, see what I mean? All of our rock star friends are the kind that wear masks and have funny names.
Right. Well, Ivan, I appreciate your time. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you. We'll make sure to get links to all those things in our show notes. And thank you.
Yeah. When do you think, when will it be on?
Well, this will be our 23rd episode, which is, you may know,
right,
sacred number in the mythos of Bob, and it's going to release on July 23rd. And I didn't plan this at all, but it will release on July 23rd, which is the 50th anniversary of Bob's July 23rd Serious Contact. So this is a rather auspicious episode.
Praise all the Bobs.
Praise all the Bobs. I will
23rd.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on your 23rd.
Yeah.
That makes me feel great. Wait till my wife hears that. She's one of those people who's the Discordian first. She sees every 23 that appears anywhere. Kooky and crazy. We decided to make it, our secret number is 273 because it's just more rare, a lot more rare.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I really enjoyed it. I should be I'll interview you next time if I ever get my show going again.
Be happy to.
Okay.
All right. I'll let you go. I am full. Kind of rest my brain.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks again, Ivan.
That concludes the episode. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Praise all the Bobs. A big thank you to Reverend Stang for taking the time to talk. Thank you to Christina Pearson of the Robert Anton Wilson Trust and Richard Rassa of Hilaritas Press. And a big thank you, as always, to Ryan Reeves for putting it all together. For the next regular episode, releasing on the 23rd of August, I chat with Crowley biographer Richard Kaczynski. Until then, I am your host, Mike Gathers, signing off with love and cheerfulness. Amor et Hilaritas.
Bye.